Hello guys, how are you all? Welcome back to my channel. So, today we are gonna see, what if Hyuga adopted Naruto for his own lust, part 1. Subscribe if you enjoy the video, and also support CROSS4M3 for his fantastic skill, link in description. So let's begin the story. Hiashi Hyuga was a man on a mission. He was going to the Hokage's office to request permission to raise the son of Minato Namikaze. When he reached the outer door he knocked firmly. Enter, came a voice from the other side of the door. Hokage-sama, I would like to request that my clan be allowed to raise the boy. Minato chose to contain the Kyuubi. The Hokage could hardly believe his ears. Hiashi, this is most unusual, I would have thought that you would want to have the boy killed. Hiashi chuckled, I am not so heartless as to wish death on an innocent child, and I am not so blind as to presume that the fourth Hokage would sacrifice his life in order to simply reincarnate the Kyuubi no Kitsune as a human child. To believe such a thing would be a dishonor to all those who died that day, and an insult to the memory of the fourth himself as well. The third Hokage looked at him with a stern expression on his weathered face. I must inform you that there have been several clan heads who have already spoken to me about this matter today. Most of them wanted the boy killed, but there were a few who had requests similar to your own. Now, tell me why I should grant your request when I refused the others. Mentally Hiashi smiled to himself, he had almost succeeded in his quest to adopt the boy. All he had to do now was pull out his trump cards. Because I know the identity of the boy's father, Minato Namikaze, more recently known as the fourth Hokage. The look of surprise on the old Hokage's face was priceless, but Hiashi continued as if he hadn't noticed. And I do not seek this boy merely to train him as a weapon or to use as a way to raise the status of my clan in this village. We are already one of the most powerful clans in the village, and I don't think we need any more power. The elders of my clan are troublesome enough with the power that we already have, to give them any more would just be asking for trouble. I only wish to honor the memory of the fourth Hokage by giving his child a family. And I have a feeling that this boy will someday unite the branch family and the main family somehow. At that exact moment Hiashi's trump card walked in, his twin brother Hisashi. That is why Hiashi and I want to raise Naruto Namikaze. Hisashi said, finishing his brother's sentence as he entered the room unannounced. For too long the branch and main families of the Hyuga clan have been at each other's throats. Within 1 or 2 more generations there will be enough unrest to split the clan in two, and I doubt that it will be a peaceful split. Most likely a small civil war will erupt, resulting in the destruction of the Hyuga clan. There is also a very high possibility that most if not all of Konoha itself will be dragged into the fight. Which is why Hiashi and I want to at least attempt to stop this feud now before it even begins. The Hokage could see where they were heading with their explanation. You two are going to put Naruto into the branch family, aren't you? And then you are going to have him marry into the main house through Hiashi's unborn daughter. Am I right? Hiashi knew there was a reason why he respected the Hokage so much. He was a genius when it came to figuring out his opponent's train of thought. But this time he was wrong. Not exactly, Hokage-sama, you see, we had thought of that, but we ran into a problem. Because of the arrogance of the main family, members of the main house and the branch house never intermarry. We came up with a solution to this problem, however. We will put him into neither one. In other words, neither I nor my brother will actually adopt Naruto. We will simply raise him as Hisashi's godson and hope for the best. But you must make no mistake, Naruto must eventually be told of his true parentage for this to work, otherwise our plan will most likely fail. Once he is old enough Naruto will no doubt realize that my daughter is a fine choice for a wife and will seek to win her heart. At least that is our hope. If that happens the elders will not be able to stop the reuniting of the two families this time. But if he believes her to be related to him, that will never happen. So to avoid that happening we will be sure to raise him as the son of a close friend of the family instead. Hiruzen Sarutobi, third Hokage of Konohagakure, listened to their plan with admiration. The two brothers had thought of everything. And with the protection of the Hyuga clan, there would be very little need to hide the true identity of the child in question. He would eventually know exactly who he was and where he came from. He could see no way around it. The best place for Naruto would seem to be with the Hyuga brothers, and if their plan worked, it would prevent further bloodshed and allow one of Konoha's greatest clans to become truly united. Only one question remained. How would you keep him from receiving the caged bird seal? The elders may see fit to try to force it on him, even if he isn't an official Hyuga and lacks the Byakugan. My apologies Hokage-sama, in my haste I forgot to explain exactly how we will achieve this feat. I will allow Hisashi to explain, as it was his idea. Thank you brother, Hokage-sama, as you know every member of the branch house receives a curse seal to prevent the Byakugan from falling into enemy hands if they are killed in action. It is a seal that Hiashi and I do not believe that it is necessary any longer. It was instituted before our clan came to Konoha, and now that we are several generations into our settlement here, we believe that the time has come to stop using the seal, since we now have the security of a ninja village to aid us in our struggle to survive as a clan. The only reason that Hiashi, as the head of our clan, has not stopped the use of this seal is because the elders will not allow him to do so. Presently the seal is being used by the Council of Elders to separate our clan into upper and lower classes, and they do not wish this to change, even though it will end up destroying our clan in the long run. Because the elders have so much power, we cannot fully prevent the curse seal from being used on Naruto, but you can. If you order our clan to raise Naruto but place him under your own protection as the Hokage, then the elders will have no say in how he is raised. Your protection will prevent them from placing the seal on him, since that protection means that any procedures must be approved by you. And if you do this, Hiashi will be free and clear of any negative repercussions that could result from not placing the seal on this child, because he will pretend to disagree with your decision. To ensure that we are able to convince the elders of the sincerity of our little farce, Hiashi will order me to raise him, rather than soil the good name of the main house, and I will argue against it. We will create a compromise and raise him in both houses. At least it is how the elders will see it. By raising him in both houses, we will hopefully be able to unite the two families. The third Hokage was impressed. They really had thought of nearly every detail. Only the future remained in doubt, but the Hokage was sure that this was the right decision. Alright, I will allow you two to raise Naruto as you see fit. I will inform the council of my decision in 2 days. Let's hope that we can make a convincing argument for their benefit. Thank you, Hokage-sama. Both twins bowed and then turned to leave the room to go prepare for their new responsibilities. Hiruzen Sarutobi leaned back in his chair and began to plan out how he was going to force Hiashi Hyuga to raise Naruto Namikaze. This is going to be a very interesting council meeting. 2 days later, the village council meeting. Hiruzen looked out over the assembled clan heads. I'm sure that you all know why I have called you all here today. He paused, choosing his next words carefully. I have decided to place Naruto Namikaze under my protection and will choose a clan that I feel is best suited to raise him to his fullest potential. Every clan head was suddenly paying attention. Even Shikaku Nara looked up from where he was, pretending to take a nap. Each and he was certain that their clan had been chosen over all the others as the one best suited to this task. They were to be sorely disappointed. I have decided that the Hyuga clan is best suited to raise the boy. There was a general outcry from everyone present. Obviously they did not agree with this decision. The Hyuga may have been one of the most powerful clans, but they were not the most popular. Many people disliked them because of their superior attitudes. Their arrogance made them the second most hated clan, just ahead of them in popularity. The Hokage waited for the outcry to die down before continuing. I have chosen them because their unique position as the wielders of the Byakugan will be instrumental in allowing us to know if the seal holding the Kyuubi should ever weaken. Such a warning would allow us to take preventative measures to ensure that a repeat of the Kyuubi's attack does not happen. They are also the best suited to protect him from those who would harm him or take advantage of him. Of course, it could be said that the plan laid out 2 days earlier by Hiashi and Hisashi was taking advantage of him as well, but it allowed him to choose whether or not to go along with it. Unlike Fugaku Uchiha's plan. Flashback. Hokage-sama, there is something I wish to discuss with you. Go ahead, Fugaku, I am listening. I believe that the Kyuubi container must be destroyed. Fugaku, you know I can't do that. You of all people should know that killing the boy will only release the Kyuubi once more. The seal has not had enough time to adhere to the boy's chakra sufficiently. Besides, killing an innocent child is an action that I could never condone. Then allow me to raise it as a weapon to use against our enemies. Fugaku, you are starting to sound like Danzo. I guess I'll just have to give you the same answer I gave him. That would be a very firm no, or rather hell no if you want to know how I truly feel about it. As Hiruzen came back to the present, he saw that Hiashi was about to speak. He had better make this convincing. He thought. But knowing Hiashi, by the end of his little argument the council would be begging him to take the boy. Hokage-sama, I understand your reasoning behind choosing my clan to raise the boy, however I must protest. Taking in this boy would place my entire clan in great danger, not only from the no Kitsune, but from the enemies of the boy's father. Minato Namikaze, better known as Konoha's Yellow Flash, had many enemies, not only within this village, but also in the other villages as well. If any other village were to find out that my clan had taken in the man's son, they would not hesitate to attempt to kill the boy to take revenge on his father. Such an attempt would no doubt kill many members of my clan. They knew what wanted to say next. Hiashi, there is a very good reason why I chose your clan. The unique structure that your ancestors created will afford greater protection to the boy. Having two families within the clan will serve to confuse the enemies who would seek to kill the boy and allow both families to say that the other family is the one in possession of the boy. And as I said earlier, your Byakugan gives your clan an early warning system should the seal ever be in danger of breaking. I know that I would sleep better at night knowing that there was a way for us to find out beforehand should another attack be about to take place. The clan leaders were beginning to see the logic in placing the boy with the Hyuga clan. They certainly no longer wanted to have such a dangerous child in their own clans. After this meeting they were almost glad to let the Hyugas have him. Hiashi pretended to acquiesce to the Hokage's point. He lowered his head submissively. "Alright Hokage-sama, I will raise the boy. But I must be sure to point out that I take on this responsibility with extreme reluctance. That being said, I will not allow anyone in my clan to adopt him, instead I will have my twin see to his well-being. But there is one problem with your plan, however. You realize that taking in the boy will make my entire clan a target for those who would like revenge against the fourth Hokage. But there is a way to prevent such an occurrence from happening. In that regard, I must respectfully request that the identity of the boy and what he contains within him be made an S-class secret, with all the protections that such a declaration implies. If you grant my request, then we must choose a new clan name for him. Because nobody in their right mind would believe that he is a Hyuga, I would recommend using his mother's name instead. Uzumaki." The Hokage knew that they had won. It was time to end this charade on a positive note and hope for the best. The head of the Hyuga clan is correct in his analysis of the situation, as such I am inclined to grant his request. He said, looking at each of them in turn. Naruto Namikaze and all information relating to the true fate of the no Kitsune is now an S-class secret. Henceforth this boy shall no longer be known by the name of Naruto Namikaze, he is now Naruto Uzumaki, until such time as he wishes to reclaim his true name. This meeting is adjourned. Hiashi, you may pick up Naruto at your earliest convenience, he is with my son Asuma. The issue was overjoyed, not that he showed it. The plan was working and nobody had any idea other than his brother and the Hokage. Now all he had to do was fool the Council of Elders into accepting this turn of events. A task easier said than done. As Ashi watched as a 1-year-old Niji Hyuga investigated the little intruder known as Naruto Uzumaki, he couldn't help but find it funny when Niji looked at him as if to say, "Okay, he can stay," as if the toddler had any choice in the matter. It reminded him of earlier that day when an irate Council of Elders was informed about the newest resident of the Hyuga compound. Flashback, they had blustered and fussed like the spoiled and rich main branch members that they were. But they knew that in the end they would have no choice but to accept the Hokage's decision in this matter. All of that had happened while he had been listening from the hallway, waiting for his part in the drama that was being played out for the benefit of the elders. The Ashi called him in and handed him the sleeping Naruto before beginning the charade. "I could not prevent the Hokage from forcing us to raise this child, but he never said that we had to put him in the main family. Because of this oversight on his part, I am going to place the boy under his Ashi's care. However, there is a slight complication. Because of the nature of the boy and his unique position as the jailer of the Kyuubi no Kitsune, the Hokage has seen fit to place his protection over the boy. However much I may dislike it, this means that we cannot place a curse seal on the boy." Next came his Ashi's turn. "Brother, this means that the boy will not be a branch family member. There is no way that I can raise a main branch member to the satisfaction of the elders." The Ashi pretended to be angered by the interruption. "Very well, if it concerns you that much then I will just have to oversee that part of the boy's upbringing myself. But he is still under your care Hisashi, no arguments." Understood Hiashi-sama. The council had bought the whole thing. Now it was just a matter of raising Naruto, but that wouldn't be too troublesome. Sure, a baby was a handful, but it was nothing to worry about. Oh, how wrong he was. 3 years later, Niji ran ahead of them as Hisashi slowly walked a 3-year-old Naruto across the Hyuga compound to where Hiashi was waiting with his wife, Hinali, and daughter, Hinata. They had been letting Naruto and Hinata play together ever since the two had learned how to crawl, in hopes of creating some sort of attachment between them. It worked. Naruto was now always asking when they were going to see Hinaheim, as he called her. Conversely, she was always waiting for Naru-chan to come over. Now the two were old enough to leave the compound and go to the park to play with the other children, with an escort of course. "Dad, hurry up." Niji called from across the compound. He had reached the place where Hiashi was waiting. "I'm coming to Niji," he called back. And with that he picked Naruto up off the ground and carried him the rest of the way over. His godson may have limitless energy, but he still couldn't make it all the way across the compound yet. Judging from Hiashi's face and his presence at Hinali's side, something was bothering him. "Hiashi-sama?" he questioned, careful to use the honorific within earshot of the compound and any elders who could possibly be nearby. "I heard that today you were taking the kids to the park. Since it's the first time they'll be off the compound, I thought I should tag along." The Ashi answered carefully. The look on his face told his Ashi to wait until they reached the safety of the park before asking again. When they reached the park, Naruto immediately dragged Hinata off to investigate all of the new sights and sounds that there were in this strange new place. Niji followed close behind, not wanting to be left out. "Look Hinaheim, that tree is taller than Uncle. I'm gonna climb it." "Naru-chan. You're going to get hurt again." "Hinaheim, you worry too much." Just then Niji came up behind them. "She's right Naru-san, that tree is too tall for you to climb safely, let's go find a smaller one." Neji could always talk some sense into Naruto for some reason. One day Hinata was going to ask how he did it, but today wasn't that day. Hey, there's a smaller one. And with that Naruto was off, the other two close behind. Meanwhile on a park bench a short distance away, Hinata was keeping an eye on the kids while the two brothers talked in hushed tones so that nobody would overhear, as if anybody could hear anything over Naruto shouting anyways. Hiashi, please tell me the real reason why we came here today. Alright Hisashi, I'll tell you. It is so that we could talk without being overheard by the elders. They have spies everywhere in the main house. And so that I could see the kids as they went to the park for the first time in their lives. But mostly so we could talk. It must be important then. You're right. And it has to do with Neji. What is it? Hisashi was half curious and half scared for his son. Well, as you know, the time for the cage bird seal is fast approaching, and the elders are trying to pressure me into placing it on Neji. I've been trying to find a way around it, just as I tried to do when they wanted you sealed. I failed when I tried to help you, but I may have found a way to help Neji. How? There is an old clan law that I found when I was searching for a way around your sealing. It couldn't help you, so I set it aside and continued my search. Recently when I was doing the same search to help Neji, I found the law again. It says that the nephew of the clan head may be designated as the secondary heir of the clan, as long as the head has no sons. I know that it wasn't meant to be used to prevent a sealing, but I believe it may work, because there is another clan law that states that no possible heir may be sealed until they have no claim on the position of clan leader. That is the law that allowed you to remain unsealed for so long. Hisashi was beginning to see where Hiashi was going with this plan. You mean to designate Neji as the secondary heir, don't you? Well, he is my nephew, and I have no sons, and as far as I know I won't be getting one before the sealing deadline set by the elders. Which means that they have ironically been done in by the clan laws that they love so dearly. Hisashi smiled at his older brother before pointing out the obvious. Your next elders meeting is going to be hell on earth, you know that, right? It's worth it if it means that I can prevent a young boy from being sealed simply because his father was born 1 minute too late. Just then they heard a cry from across the park, and Hinata took off running in the direction that the sound had come from. Naruto had fallen out of the tree that he was climbing in, which meant that it was time to go home and come back another day. 6 months later, celebration of Hidden Leaf's victory over Hidden Cloud, Hinata's birthday, Neji's sealing deadline, one hell of a bad night for a certain cloud ninja. Hisashi held Neji's hand so he wouldn't get lost in the crowd as the parade passed by them. He couldn't place it, but that cloud ninja gave him a bad feeling in the pit of his stomach. He was, once again, glad that Hiashi had taken his advice and let the kids all have a sleepover for Hinata's birthday. In reality it was to afford Naruto and Neji the extra protection of the main house, and to have another obstacle in case the cloud ninjas had any ideas about acquiring them through Hinata. Hisashi hoped that they were overreacting, but their spy network had been picking up hints of an attempt for months. There wasn't enough evidence to take to the Hokage, but his thinking was better safe than sorry. It was also to prevent the Elders' Council from sealing Neji during the night to prevent Hiashi's plan from coming to fruition. The old geezers could enter any branch family house at will, but the main Hisai was off limits without an invitation. Hisashi smiled at the memory of the meeting where the elders found out about Hiashi's plan. They had held it as close to the sealing deadline as possible, so as to not allow the elders any time to get around it. Flashback, the elders could barely believe the words coming out of their leader's mouth. So you mean to tell us that you wish to have a branch member as your heir? The bravest of the masked. No. I wish to name him as my secondary heir, in case Hinata is not able to take my place. And he is not a branch family member, he is my nephew. He will not be a branch family member until he is sealed. And I am well within my rights to choose him. My daughter may not be up to your exceedingly high standards, but Neji will be. Very well, Hiashi, you have managed to get around sealing someone this time. But be aware that it won't work again. You can only have 3 designated heirs. Yes, I know, elder, but to save even one child from being sealed is still a success. By the way, you won't have to worry about the 3rd heir, my wife is pregnant again. Congratulations, Hiashi-sama. As the parade ended and the crowd dispersed, Hisashi saw the cloud ninja heading towards them, or more specifically to Hiashi. Hyuga-sama, I would be greatly honored if you would allow me to dine with your clan tonight. Hiashi had known that this was coming. The cloud ninja had been dining with every clan, calling it a gesture of goodwill. Not wanting to be rude and not having any concrete reason to refuse, Hiashi was, of course, forced to say yes to the cloud ninja. The children were not old enough to attend state dinners yet, so Neji, Hinata, and Naruto ate in Hinata's room. After dinner, several card games, and a very hotly contested shogi match between Neji and Naruto, of course, the 3 children were told to go to sleep by their parents. It was 1 a.m. after all. 3 hours later, a silent figure crept over a blind spot on the wall and made his way to Hinata's room. He saw 2 small forms asleep on the floor. Knowing that grabbing one would wake the other, the shadow grabbed both of them. He assumed that he could always use the spare as a hostage if he were caught. In his haste he failed to spot the third sleeping mat situated off to the side, as if a child had woken up and was wandering the halls. Neji saw the figure going into Hinata's room with his activated Byakugan. His father had told him to watch out for Hinata and Naruto, and if he saw anything to come get either himself or Hiashi, whomever he found first. He ran into his father's guest room and shouted, "The creepy man from the parade took Naru-san and Hina-san." His father was awake in a flash and running in the direction Neji was pointing. Over his shoulder he shouted, "Go get Uncle Hiashi." Neji repeated the process in Hiashi's room and then went back to Hinata's room to wait for them to return. There was no doubt in his 5-year-old mind that his father and uncle would succeed in bringing back his cousin and his brother, his best friends. Naruto woke up and saw that he was moving very fast away from his home. He started screaming and kicking, trying anything to get away. He succeeded in causing the man to drop him, and he proceeded to run back the way he came. Naru-chan. All of the commotion that he was making had woken Hinata, who Naruto had just said was under the man's other arm. Of course to Naruto this was unacceptable. Someone had the audacity to take Hina-hime from him, his Hina-hime. He wasn't going to let that happen, nobody was going to take her away from him. Hina-hime. He screamed as he chased after them. "Give me back my Hina-hime." Of course a 4-year-old is no match for a full-grown ninja when it comes to speed, as Naruto was fast figuring out. When he stopped to catch his breath, Naruto saw a rock lying on the ground. Picking it up he threw it at the ninja, who promptly dodged it and then ran into a tree. This gave Naruto time to catch up and drag Hinata out of the man's grasp. When he was sure that Hinata was safe, Naruto ran back over and began kicking the man for all he was worth. "You never take my Hina-hime. Never ever ever ever. She's my friend and you can't have her." It was then that Hiashi and Hisashi finally caught up to them. All the noise that Naruto was making had led them straight to him. Hisashi grabbed Naruto before he could do any real damage to the man. That was a job for the interrogators. "Hiashi, I think he's a little attached to your daughter," Hisashi said with a chuckle as Naruto fell asleep again, tired out from all the excitement. Hiashi looked up from where he was, tying up the would-be kidnapper. "That's good, he'll need to be if we want our plan to work." He looked down at the man who had tried to steal his daughter. How could one kid take down a Cloud Village? Granted Naruto was a special case, but he hadn't even used the Kyuubi's power. Hiashi made a decision. "Hisashi, I believe it is time to begin their training." Hisashi looked at him intently. "How can he use our fighting style without this? I have faith in him, I know he'll figure it out and Hinata will help him. Until she activates next year she is as blind as he is." Hisashi could see that his brother's mind was made up. Oh well, if the boy could take down a ninja, then he could learn the gentle fist fighting style without the aid of eyes. 7 months later, Hyuga clan training hall. Again. Hiashi shouted. And again Naruto and Hinata went through the forms of the gentle fist. They were improving greatly, thanks to Naruto's never-quit attitude. Several times the boy had been found practicing long after the rest of the clan had gone to bed. Even Hiashi had to admit that the boy showed promise. If things kept progressing at this rate, Naruto would become the first ever master of the gentle fist without the bloodline. Granted the moves weren't all the same, and he had to be careful not to harm the boy. But the potential was there. He couldn't help but assume that the style that Naruto ended up with would most likely not be recognizable as the gentle fist. More than likely he would create a new fighting style, one that would be passed down through the revived Namikaze clan for generations. Naruto hadn't been told of his true heritage yet, but Hiashi was confident that his plan would end up happening once Naruto was old enough to know the truth. "Hiashi-sama." A branch member ran up, dragging Hiashi out of his reverie. "Your wife is in labor." That was not good news, it was still 2 weeks early. "Take the children to the hospital now and tell them that I am on my way." "Yes Hiashi-sama," the branch member went to obey, taking Hinata by the hand and leading her away. This caused Naruto to run after them. Ever since the incident with the Cloud Ninja he refused to be separated from Hinata during the daytime and only reluctantly allowed his parents to take him home at night. Hiashi saw what was happening and intervened before Naruto went on another kicking spree. "I meant both of them," he said in an exasperated tone. "Yes Hiashi-sama, please forgive my mistake." And with that the branch member led both children away. At the hospital the children were sent to a playroom to wait for their parents. Hinata was scared, she didn't know what was happening to her mother. All she knew was that her mom had been getting a lot bigger recently and her father had told her that soon she would have a little brother or sister to play with. That sounded like fun but she was still worried, so she decided to say something about it to Naruto, trusting that he would know what to do, he always did. "And Naru-chan. I'm worried about my mom." Naruto looked up from the picture he was drawing and gave her a reassuring smile. "She'll be fine Hina-hime, don't worry. The doctors will keep her safe." "He's right Hina-san. She'll be fine." Neji said as he walked in with his father. Naruto, Hinata, I want you to listen to me very carefully, Hisashi said as he knelt down to their eye level. Hinali-sama is going to be very weak over the next few days. So I need you to be on your best behavior until she is feeling better. Do you understand? When they both nodded in affirmation, Hisashi stood up. Now come with me to meet your new sister Hinata. Yes, Naruto can come too, he said before they could ask the perceived question. Hinata was overjoyed, she had a new sister. Now everything was perfect. 4 weeks later, training hall. Naruto, yes uncle. I want you to try something. It's a new training method I've been toying with to help you compensate for your lack of while using the gentle fist style. I will try it, then close your eyes. Hisashi walked over to him and placed a blindfold over his eyes. Now, open them. But uncle, I don't understand. How is a blindfold going to allow me to be able to use the gentle fist better? It won't let me see anything at all, at least with my limited eyes, I could see attacks coming at me. And that is why you have stopped progressing. Naruto gave him what would have been a questioning look if he wasn't wearing the blindfold. You are relying too heavily on your eyesight and not enough on your other senses. In order to progress any further you must learn not to rely on your eyes. But then how do I see? I leave that to you Naruto, you may ask whomever you must, use whatever you need, and take however long it requires. Just figure it out. After Hisashi had left, Naruto sat down to think about this new problem. It was impossible. Wasn't it? Of course Naruto knew that it had to be possible, otherwise Hisashi wouldn't have told him to do it. But, when after an hour he still had no ideas as to how to make it physically possible, he decided to do what any 5-year-old would do, cheat. And that was the reason why Naruto found himself outside Hiyashi's office just after lunch that day. He had been told that he could achieve the solution by any means necessary, so he went to the only Hyuga that could be said to be smarter than Hisashi, his twin brother Hiyashi. Naruto knocked lightly before opening the door a few inches. Uncle Hiyashi? Can I ask you a question? Of course Naruto, what is it? Well, Uncle Hisashi told me to figure out a way to fight an opponent with a blindfold on, so that I can compensate for my lack of dot and I was wondering if you knew of any way that it could be possible. That is a good question, Naruto. I don't believe it is physically possible to do such a thing, but with ninjutsu it just might be possible. I do not personally know of a that will accomplish your task. But fortunately the Hyuga clan archives are currently playing host to the clan's archives. Housed within is a library that could even rival that of the Uchiha clan. I think this is as good a time as any for someone to look through them. I'm sure that the 4th Hokage wouldn't mind a young prodigy such as yourself putting them to good use. But you can't tell anyone that we have the Namikaze archives. Many clans would kill to get their hands on some of the things that made the 4th so powerful. If there is one that will do what you require then it will be there, if not then you will have to create one. There are instructions on how to do that in the archives as well. But if you have to create your own, come to me or Uncle Hisashi before you attempt it so that we can make sure that you don't hurt yourself. Naruto bowed. Thank you Uncle Hisashi for placing this trust in me. I just have one more question. Oh? What would that be? Where are the archives? Have Hinata or Neji show you where they are, in fact why don't you ask them for some help? I'm sure that 3 searchers are better than 1. And perhaps you will find something to help them as well. After Naruto left, Hisashi got out a piece of paper. On it he wrote one sentence. The archives have been opened. He then put it in an envelope and put a priority seal on it, only he would be able to open the envelope now. If anyone else attempted it the seal would explode, killing the interloper and destroying the document. Hisashi smiled to himself. They would find this piece of information very interesting indeed. Their plan was right on track and the Namikaze clan was about to be reborn as a 5-year-old boy. 30 minutes later, outside the archives. You're sure that this is Hinaheim? It doesn't look like much. Hinata giggled. That's the whole point of Naru-chan. This is a secret archive. I don't even think that some of the elders know what is in here. They were standing in front of a dilapidated old building at the back of the Hyuga compound, waiting for Neji to show up. When Naruto had found him he was in the middle of a workout and had to finish. He had promised to meet them outside the archives in an hour. That was 50 minutes ago. Naruto was beginning to wonder if Neji had gotten stopped by someone on his way there, but it wasn't as if he wasn't allowed in the archives or anything. And even if he wasn't, Hinata was there to provide them access. Nobody could say no to the heir of the clan. Naruto now saw the reason why Hisashi had him bring her, other than to help him look. If anyone gave them any trouble all Hinata had to do was order them to do something else, and they would have to obey. Just then Neji came running up to them. Sorry I took so long, I went to look for some flashlights, in case one of the lights is out or something. Naruto could see the logic behind Neji's idea, so he let it slide. As long as you're here now alright let's go inside before someone decides to ask us what we're doing out here. When they got inside all 3 were speechless at the sight before them. Inside the building there was what seemed to be an endless warehouse of information. Row upon row of shelves full of scrolls, books and parchments stood in front of them, beckoning the three knowledge seekers to come forth and explore. And explore what they did. Naruto headed straight for the Namikaze collection, while Hinata and Neji browsed the Hyuga collection. All of them were looking for one thing, a way for Naruto to see without using his eyes. After several hours of searching, all three had come up empty-handed. It appeared that they were looking for had not been created yet. After conferring with the others, Naruto decided to change his search. Instead of looking for it to do exactly what he required, they would instead be looking for any that looked like it could possibly be combined with another to get the desired effect. This search was more productive. In the scroll on basic, Naruto found instructions on how to make chakra strings, not exactly useful, but he felt as if he might find some use for it in the future, so he copied it down. He then found a recently made scroll on something called the dot. He had no idea what it was, but it mentioned using specially modified to perform the technique correctly. He left the scroll where he found it. It seemed too advanced for him, but an idea was beginning to form in the back of his mind. It would need some fine-tuning, but it showed promise. In the Hyuga section, Hinata found a scroll on chakra sensing techniques and sensory enhancement. She felt it was worth looking at, so she brought it along as she continued her search. Her next discovery was an old parchment that dealt with certain advanced chakra control exercises that were not common knowledge outside of the clan. Knowing that any attempt by Naruto would require such precise control, she copied it onto a scroll, since the parchment looked like it wouldn't survive Naruto's less than gentle handling. Elsewhere, Neji was perusing the section containing the clan's collected taijutsu styles. He found a very old scroll that held information on a form of taijutsu that was used by the Hyuga clan before the full development of the gentle fist style. It would still require an extensive amount of work for Naruto to use the style without the benefit of, but Neji felt that it would serve him much better than the true gentle fist form. When they met up again at the entrance to the archives, Naruto was pleased to discover that the other two had found something that would help him. The three left the archives just before sundown with their borrowed items. Naruto had a lot of reading to do, of course with Hinata and Neji's help, it wouldn't take long at all. 2 weeks later, Naruto had the idea for his new training system firmly in place. He was going to create a circle of kunai and attach chakra strings to them. He would wear the blindfold while he was sitting in the middle of the circle with an active sensory enhancement for his hearing. He was attempting to use the vibrations of the strings combined with what he was hearing to try and sense what was going on around him. Add to that the chakra sensing techniques that Hinata had discovered, and he almost had a workable that could be used to help him gain an almost Byakugan-like view of the world around him. Of course, the circle of kunai would not be a factor in the final dot. Naruto was planning to phase them out in favor of, and then continue the phasing out process until he could sense the vibrations without a weapon in the ground to conduct vibrations. Eventually he hoped to be able to just attach a chakra string to the ground or maybe even use his feet instead of relying on the chakra strings. But at the moment he was nowhere near that point. He was sitting in the circle trying to combine the use of the three techniques by using the chakra signatures of various people going about their daily business to practice identifying targets and figuring out how to predict people's movements. It was slow going, but he was making headway in his attempts. He had already identified and memorized the chakra signatures of 23 other people, the first of which was, of course, Hinata, since she was always nearby practicing her chakra control. Once she got the hang of it, she was going to attempt to teach the exercises to Naruto and Neji. Likewise, Neji was practicing the taijutsu form he had discovered and would teach Naruto once he felt he had the basics down. All of this was done without the official knowledge of their parents or guardians in Naruto's case. However, they had unofficially been getting help from both Hiashi and Hisashi whenever they needed it. And they were rapidly improving. By the time Naruto was 7 years old, he had mastered the techniques that the three had found in the archives. He finally was able to see without his eyes. Although Neji had trained him in the lost taijutsu form recovered from the archives, Naruto had yet to adequately perform it without the use of his eyes. He had taken to wearing a strip of cloth tied around his forehead. He would use this as a blindfold whenever he felt like practicing his Byakugan skills. He had named it that because it was meant to make up for his lack of dot. It was during this time that Naruto and Hinata began taking walks around the village, partly so that Naruto could practice using in unfamiliar situations, but also because they had nothing better to do until Neji got out of the academy for the day. This morning they were watching as one of the lower academy classes ran through an obstacle course. At one point in the course there was a rope that the students were supposed to use to swing over a shallow ditch. While watching the students attempt this feat, Naruto began to get an idea. What if he could do that? Only instead of an actual rope he could use the chakra strings that he had used to develop that, possibly creating a rope out of chakra if he needed to. It certainly would give him an edge over his opponents in a fight. He turned to Hinata. Hinaheim, what kind of control do you think it would take to make a rope out of chakra? I don't know Naru-chan, probably more than you have right now. Can you help me with that? I want to see if I can do it. Why not? There isn't really much else for us to do at the moment other than get into trouble. Let's go to the park to practice. Can we go to first? I'm getting hungry. Fine. At the park, Hinata and Naruto put on his blindfold and activate his. After going through his normal routine of counting the birds in the surrounding area, an idea stolen from Niji's training, she told him to try to throw a chakra string at a nearby tree, just to see what they had to work with in terms of skill and range. After several tries, he managed to hit the indicated tree, but the string snapped as soon as it was tightened. Hinata sighed when she saw this. They had a long way to go, and only a year before the academy took over their lives. Just then Naruto spun around and threw a chakra string into the bushes. When he pulled it back, a boy came with it. "Who are you? What are you doing here?" she asked, sounding much more confident than she really was. "My name is Shikamaru and I was trying to take a nap." The boy, now identified as Shikamaru, said in an exasperated tone of voice. "Sorry, Shikamaru," Naruto said sheepishly, "I was trying to train myself to use chakra strings and I caught you moving. I can't really distinguish between humans and animals yet. I thought you were a squirrel or something, and I wanted to see if I could hit a moving target." Shikamaru looked intrigued. "What is? I've never heard of it." "Well, it's basically fake." Naruto explained. "I combined some really cool chakra sensing techniques with training my body to sense vibrations in the ground and training my ears to increase my hearing acuity. It's taken me 2.5 years, but I've finally gotten 3 of my 5 senses acute enough to compensate for my lack of. Now I just have to improve it so that I can tell friend from foe and so you can distinguish whether Shikamaru is a squirrel or not." Hinata interjected, giggling as she said it. "Well, that seems like an awful lot of trouble to go through when you can already seem like a normal person. But suit yourself. As for me, I'm gonna go take a nap under that tree over there. Please try not to hit me again. It's about time for us to be going anyways, our cousin is about to get out of school," Hinata said, dragging Naruto away. After grabbing Niji from school, they explained Naruto's idea to Niji. He agreed that it showed promise, but told Naruto to concentrate on his fighting techniques until he mastered them completely. Which Naruto did, but he didn't completely stop trying to make something out of his chakra string idea. Late at night when he had trouble sleeping, he would practice throwing and releasing chakra strings. One night he realized that if he could find a way to retract his chakra strings without pulling them, he might be able to change his direction in mid-jump without having to run into something first. He smiled as he fell asleep. He had just thought of a secret technique that nobody else would have. Now if only he could pull it off. "Dinaheim. We're gonna be late." Hearing his shouting, Hiashi walked out of his study and gave him a look. He then said, "Naruto, come in here, I need to speak with you for a moment." Certain that he was going to be yelled at for shouting in the main house again, Naruto hung his head and followed Hiashi into his study. The clan head didn't say anything until the door was closed. He then turned to Naruto and his expression softened somewhat. "Don't worry Naruto, you're not in trouble." "Then why did you ask me to come in here?" "Because I needed to talk to you about something very important." Naruto looked up at him, surprised. Hiashi continued. "You have done well these last few years Naruto, you have mastered the gentle fist, albeit a greatly altered and much more archaic form than any Hyuga ever has. You have managed to surprise us in every way possible. Just when we think you have gone as far as you can go without, you figure out a way to go farther. You have even managed to create a for yourself which allows you to see almost as we do, and all before your first day at the academy, and the council is completely frustrated with you." He gave a very confused Naruto a hug. "You have made me very proud, but I have something very important to tell you. I know it will be hard, but you cannot reveal it to your peers at the academy. It is your greatest weapon, and you must ask anyone who knows of it not to reveal it as well. I know you probably wanted to use it to show off on your first day, but I think you should use something else. You can use it when you spar, but no showboating please. Now, have a good day and listen to the teachers. But no matter what happens today, remember that I am already proud of you, and that goes for you too Hinata," he said as he opened the door to reveal nothing. Hiashi was perplexed. He was sure he had felt his daughter's chakra signature outside the door listening in. Then he heard a giggle from the window. "Father, I never used the same method twice in a row. You taught me better than that." Hinata was sitting on the windowsill watching them. "Oh, that's right, I did," he said as he picked up a giggling Hinata from the window. Soon he knew she would be too old for these little games, he would miss them when they had passed. But he still had one more daughter to raise, so the fun wasn't over yet. He put Hinata down next to Naruto and knelt down to their level so that he could look them in the eye. "What I sighed was true. I am immeasurably proud of both of you, and no matter what happens in the future, you will always be safe here within the walls of our estate." He gave both of them another hug, then stood up and turned to leave, but before he got to the door he turned around and said, "You know that if you tell anyone of this little meeting, I'll deny everything, right? We Hyuga need to keep up our reputation, you know." Can't let the council start thinking I've gone soft. He chuckled at their confused expressions. Now come along children, I'm going to walk you to school on your first day, as any good father should. Hinata and Naruto just shook their heads in wonder at the experience as they followed him out of the main house and to the academy. They were two of the very few people who knew of Hiyashi's softer side and part of the even smaller group that he showed it to. To Naruto he was just as much of a father as Hisashi was, since even though Naruto knew they weren't related by blood he saw all of them as his family, with Neji as the older brother, Hanabi as the younger sister, and Hinali as his mother, but Hinata was something more to him, he just didn't realize it yet. When they got to the academy they bid farewell to Hiyashi and went inside. Once they entered the classroom they found 2 seats in the back row and sat down. Soon enough their teachers came in. Good morning class, I am your teacher Iruka, you will address me as Iruka-sensei. This is my assistant Mizuki. Known to you as Mizuki-sensei. He had each student stand up and say their name. Once that was done he got down to business. As you all know, this is the Konoha Ninja Academy. Over the next 4 years Mizuki and I will be teaching you what it means to be a ninja and the skills required to survive in this line of work. Now that introductions are out of the way, let's see what we have to work with. How many of you know any already? Naruto and Hinata, along with several others, raised their hands. Nari-chan Hinata whispered to him, father told you not to show them the dot. Don't worry Hinaheim, he whispered back, I've got something else to show them instead. They were each called up to the front of the classroom to demonstrate their skill. Shikamaru started it off by capturing Mizuki in his shadow and making him do a waltz. Hinata demonstrated her. Choji demonstrated his weak expansion, knocking Mizuki back into the wall by accident when he fell over, and Naruto uses chakra strings to write WOW on the chalkboard, but when he went for the eraser with his chakra string he lost control, and instead of erasing the word he hit Mizuki with them instead. Sorry Mizuki-sensei, I guess I don't have complete control yet. He said an apology. That's okay Naruto, at least it was only chalk. He replied. When it was Sasuke's turn he requested to go outside to demonstrate his technique. Iruka consented, seeing as it was almost break time anyways. When they were outside, Sasuke shot a fireball using his family's great fireball, straight at Mizuki. Naruto quickly shot several chakra strings at Mizuki and pulled him out of the way and into the trunk of a tree. Iruka angrily turned to Sasuke, why did you shoot the fireball at Mizuki? He asked in an angry voice. Sasuke looked unfazed by this show of anger. I thought it would be funny Iruka-sensei, he said simply. Everyone else attacked him with their dot. No Sasuke, they didn't. Choji tripped, Naruto's was an accident, and Shikamaru demonstrated a non-lethal technique. Those situations aren't the same at all. I'm afraid I'm going to have to notify your parents of this. He went over to where Mizuki was just stirring in order to help him up. When Mizuki came back to consciousness he saw Iruka standing over him. Are you okay? Iruka asked. These kids are gonna kill me. Was all he could say. Iruka dismissed them for a 30-minute break recess. Naruto and Hinata walked up to Shikamaru and a rather large boy was constantly eating a bag of chips. Hey Shikamaru, remember us? Naruto asked. The boy looked at them thoughtfully. Yeah, you're the kid who interrupted my nap last month at Naruto Park, right? And you're Hinata. Yeah, that's us. Hey listen, would you mind not telling anyone about that technique that I was practicing? Uncle Hiyashi said that I shouldn't tell anyone, he wants me to make it my secret weapon or something like that. Shikamaru looked deep in thought for a second, then he nodded. Yeah I think I could do that, except I already kind of told someone about it, but he's trustworthy enough, and he only really talks to me anyways. Naruto looked relieved, that's good. Who did you tell anyways? It's really troublesome, but I told Choji. Who's Choji? Hinata asked. Oh I forgot to introduce you guys. This, he indicated the kid next to him was eating a bag of chips, is Choji, he's my best friend. Choji, this is Naruto and Hinata. Pleased to meet you, Choji said through mouthfuls of chips. It's nice to make your acquaintance Choji. Hinata said politely. Same here. Naruto said. Shikamaru leaned close to them and whispered, he's a little sensitive about his size, so never call him FAT. Why? Naruto asked, because he'll get mad. If you don't believe me then just wait till our sparring sessions this afternoon. I'm pretty sure that his partner will make that mistake, they always do. Just then the bell rang, ending the break and putting an end to their conversation as well. After break was a lecture on theory for all of the students who hadn't known how to do any already. And after that came all of the normal subjects that kids learn in school, history, maths, science etc. all of them centered on ninja related information of course. Then came lunch, and Naruto and Hinata ate a lunch that she had packed for them both, which despite his pleas was not ramen since Hinata said that ramen was not healthy enough for growing ninja. They ate with Choji and Shikamaru since they were the only 2 kids that they had befriended so far. As they were eating they saw Sasuke and his newly acquired fangirls who were all fighting over who would get to sit next to him. Hina-chan, please promise me that you will never act like that around anyone. Naruto said in disgust as he turned away. It isn't right for anyone, especially a future ninja, to act that way. I promise Naru-chan, Hinata said. I don't really like Sasuke's attitude anyways. He reminds me of the way the elders treat you, and I don't like it. Well, that's a relief. Let's talk about something else. Naruto said as they all four sat down under a tree. What do you think they'll have us do this afternoon? Shikamaru looked at him. I don't think they'll have us do much, since it's our first day. But they'll probably have us do some sparring to see where we rank in the class and to give us sparring partners, or more likely sparring groups. He said thoughtfully. Sounds like fun. Naruto said. It just sounds troublesome to me. Shikamaru returned. But it will be interesting to see how good everyone is. I feel bad for whoever gets Sasuke, he's probably going to try to use his if he can. Hinata looked worried. I don't think that they'll let him use it. It's not as if his fighting style requires it. And not very many people know how to use it yet, so it wouldn't be fair. Toji chose this point to say something. I think Hinata is right, Shikamaru. The academy probably wants us to be able to fight without using them first, then they'll teach us to use them after they're sure that we know the basics. I hope so, Naruto said. I don't really know anything other than the one that I showed in class. The bell chose to ring right after he said that, so they gathered up their trash and headed back inside to see what the afternoon had in store for them. Shikamaru was right about the sparring. As soon as they had all settled down, Iruka had them get up and head outside for sparring evaluation. Once they were all outside, he asked for volunteers to fight in the first spar. Only Sasuke raised his hand. He had Sasuke come over to where he was and turned to the rest of them. Okay, who wants to fight Sasuke? He asked. Anyone? He looked surprised. Usually I have at least 4 volunteers. Well, since nobody wants to volunteer, I guess I'll have to pick. He looked down at the clipboard. Naruto Uzumaki. Said boy looked up when his name was called. Yes, Hiruka-sensei. Hiruka motioned him to come forward. You will be fighting Sasuke Uchiha in the first spar. Hinata looked worried when the teacher said this. Be careful, Naru-chan. She whispered to him as he left her for the indicated sparring circle. Don't worry, Hina-hime, I'll be fine. He said back to her as he walked away. When he got to Iruka's position, the man explained the rules to them both. This is a practice spar. You are to use your preferred form of Taijutsu. You may use any passive or required form of Taijutsu, but no offense, we do not want anyone hurt or killed today. And we definitely don't have any burns resulting from this match. He said this while directly looking at Sasuke. That means no fire. Do you both understand? Yes, Hiruka-sensei. Both boys answered. Alright, points are scored when you get a clear hit on your opponent's chest or back, and the spar will be over once I call an end to it, or if one of the opponents is forced out of the circle, you may begin as soon as I tell you to. He backed out of the sparring circle. Begin. He shouted. And begin they did. As soon as Iruka said begin, Naruto got down into his modified gentle fist stance, and Sasuke got into his family Taijutsu stance. What kind of a stance is that? Sasuke asked. You can't use the gentle fist without . This isn't a gentle fist, it's my own form, I call it. Naruto retorted. Well, whatever it is, it won't help you against me, I'm still gonna win this spar. Sasuke said. It doesn't matter what happens today, Sasuke, this match means nothing in the long run. Naruto replied succinctly. Ha. Shows what you know. This match will make me the top of the class. Once I get there, nobody will be able to top me. And when I graduate at the top of our class, there will be nothing that can stop me in my rise to power. You think that just by beating me you can become top of our class? That's pretty unlikely, and who said that you'll stay there even if you two beat me? There are 4 more years at the academy, Sasuke, and anything can happen. Naruto said as they circled each other. Sasuke was getting tired of Naruto's attitude. Enough talk, let's fight. He shouted just before he charged the other boy. Naruto activated his, concentrating some of his chakra into his feet to enhance the vibrations he felt from the ground through his feet, doing the same thing to enhance his hearing as well. These 2 actions made up 2/3 of his, the other part was the advanced chakra detection found by Hinata, but it wasn't really necessary for this fight. For this he felt rather than see the change in Sasuke's stance. When the other boy charged him, he was ready with an answer to the attack. As Sasuke got nearer to him, Naruto was able to analyze his movements and the vibrations created by the head-on charge. He could tell that there was something more to this attack than a simple hit. From the way Sasuke was moving towards him, Naruto could tell that it was most likely a feint to get him to drop his guard. Instead of ducking the punch, Naruto shifted his position slightly so that the punch would miss him and cause Sasuke to overshoot and lose his balance. All of this was done in the fraction of a second before Sasuke's attack hit. He had waited so long to take action so that Sasuke wouldn't be able to change his attack. As soon as the attack missed him, Naruto made an attack of his own. He hit Sasuke square on the chest with his knuckles, right at the center of the ribcage. He then used the elbow of his other arm to hit Sasuke in the back as the boy tried to recover from the missed punch that put him in the situation. Being hit in the back by Naruto's elbow caused Sasuke to hit the ground with an audible thump as Naruto flipped over him to get some distance and looked at Hyuga for a second to confirm his double score before turning back to the fight. "So you actually managed to hit me. I hope you enjoyed it, because you won't be able to do it again," Sasuke said as he got up. "You do know that pride comes before the fall, don't you, Sasuke?" Naruto taunted. "I wish he wouldn't taunt him so much," Hinata said to nobody in particular as she watched the match. Naruto was clearly winning and had been for the past 10 minutes. Each time Sasuke attacked Naruto, he would somehow miss and Naruto would score a hit. Sasuke was getting angrier and angrier with each passing moment, and it wasn't just because he couldn't seem to land a hit. Naruto kept taunting him every time he missed, and it just made him madder. For Sasuke, this was unacceptable. Nobody was allowed to be better than him, one of the elite Uchiha, and even worse than that, the boy seemed to be able to predict his every move, something only the Sharingan was supposed to be able to do. But here he was, this boy, who didn't come from a clan and had no bloodlines to speak of, doing just that. "Why won't you just stay still?" the Uchiha asked Naruto as he charged again, only to miss and get hit in the chest. "Where's the fun in that? All you'll do is hit me, and I don't think that would feel very good." "Of course, I'm only guessing since I haven't gotten hit yet. What do you think? Does getting hit feel good to you?" Naruto taunted. "What? Why would I think that getting hit felt good?" Sasuke asked, confused. "I dunno, you seem to be doing it a lot, so you must like it." "I do not like getting hit." "Then don't let me hit you," Naruto said simply. Sasuke charged again and Naruto dodged just like he had all those other times. But this time when Sasuke missed, he jumped over Naruto's expected attack and rolled before standing up behind Naruto and scoring his first hit of the match on Naruto's unguarded back. "Good job," Naruto said, only infuriating Sasuke even more. But from then on the match went back and forth, both boys scoring several more hits before Hyuga called an end to it. "That's good enough," he said to them before turning to the rest of the class. "Now I hope the rest of you understand what we are looking for in your spars. I will pair you up and you will each fight one spar so we can evaluate your ability in Taijutsu. Of course, girls will fight against girls and boys against boys this year, but don't expect that to always be the case. In the following years, we may mix it up just to see how you handle it. Now the next two to fight will be Hinata Hyuga and Sakura Haruno. The two of you head to the center of the sparring circle, everyone else pays attention, you might just learn something. Good luck, Hinata, and have fun with it," Naruto whispered to her as she passed him. "Thank you, Naruto, and don't worry, I will," she said back. The fight between the two girls was a lopsided matchup, that much was clear from the start. But Hinata decided that she would allow Sakura a few hits and even a chance to show her skills, or rather lack of them, before she started to use her gentle fist moves and showed her true skill level. They started out with Sakura charging and trying to overpower the smaller Hinata, assuming, as most people did, that her size and quiet demeanor was also an indication of her lack of skills. But Hinata just parried her blows and stood her ground. The sloppiness of Sakura's fighting led Hinata to decide that allowing her any hits at all would only hinder the other girl, rather than help her. After Sakura's second attempt at breaking through Hinata's defenses, most people could tell that Hinata wasn't trying at all. Naruto ended this by shouting to her, "Alright, Hinata. I think she's had enough of a chance to prove herself. Show her the true power of the Hyuga clan." As soon as Naruto said that, Hinata ended the confrontation and flipped backwards to the edge of the circle. Activating her, she charged back into the fray and began to use her gentle fist to great effect. But Sakura wasn't going to go down easy, she kept trying to gain the advantage. After 5 minutes of showing her true skill, Hinata ended the bout by forcing Sakura out of the circle. After Hyuga named Hinata the winner, Sakura came over to her and said, "Thank you." Hinata was surprised. "For what?" she asked. "For allowing me to show what I could do before you beat me. I know that you could have beaten me in 10 seconds, but you gave me a chance and didn't hurt me even though you could have," Sakura answered. "Well, you're welcome. Hyuga-sensei said that these matches were to determine our skill levels, and I decided that if he couldn't tell that I was holding back at the beginning, then I would just work my way up," Hinata said in reply. "Oh hey, do you want to sit with me and Naruto?" she asked. "No thank you, not today anyways," Sakura replied before she went to sit with Ino. The rest of the spars went in much the same way as the first two had. One of the opponents almost always far outclassed the other, but the other students took their cue from Hinata and allowed the weaker student a chance to show their skills before winning the spar in a show of strength and skill. Afterwards, Hyuga addressed them as a group. "I am proud of all of you. Tomorrow there will be a list of sparring groups posted on the bulletin board. These will be your groups until I say otherwise. They are based on your current level of skill, not your physical ability, and you will have to prove to me that your skills have progressed to the next level before I will let you move up to the next level. Likewise, if I feel that your skills have stagnated or the rest of the group have progressed beyond your level, I will move you down one level. Now before I dismiss you for the day, does anyone have any questions? Sasuke raised his hand. Haruka-sensei, what about weapons and physical training? A very good question, Sasuke. We will deal with those subjects tomorrow. Now if there are no more questions, you are all dismissed for the day. Izushi was outside of the academy waiting for them when Fugaku Uchiha walked up to him. So I guess the rumors were true after all. The Hyugas actually were arrogant enough to allow the brat to become a ninja. Izushi gave him a stern look. You know better than to speak of him like that in public, Fugaku. The third's law is still in effect. So I take it that your youngest excuse for a son is now enrolled at the academy as well. You will show me the proper respect. I only show respect to people who deserve it, such as my brother or the Hokage or Naruto. You however do not deserve my respect so long as you hold to your current doctrine of natural Uchiha superiority without any hard work to back it up. Until such time as you deign to reconsider this foolish idea, I see no reason to even try to speak to you, let alone give you my respect. Fugaku was indignant at this offensively true statement. Why you? This conversation is now over. I must pick up my sons and my niece from the academy and bring them home. With that, Hisashi walked away towards the waiting children. He would need to tell Hisashi of this conversation before the next council meeting. He would certainly get an earful about it, so it was only right to warn him. At night, Hinata couldn't sleep. She was worried about Naruto. She had seen the look that Sasuke was giving him after their fight, and she didn't like it. He looked ready to kill, and it was only the first spar. What would happen if they ever fought again? Nothing good, of that much she was sure, but Naruto kept telling her not to worry about it, that he would be fine. Hinata wished that she could believe him, but he could be extremely naive sometimes, and this seemed like one of those times. She came to a decision. If Naruto was too naive to be worried about his own safety, then she would just have to worry for him and do the one thing that he never could. Ask her father what to do. She walked out of her room and peeked into Hiyashi's study. The light was still on. Daddy. This late at night there were no people in the main house, so maintaining a sense of decorum was not required. She could call Hiyashi whatever she wanted. Can I talk to you? Hiyashi looked up in surprise. Hinata, why are you still up? You should be in bed. She shuffled over to him and climbed onto his lap. I was, Daddy, but I couldn't sleep. I'm worried about Naru-chan. I think he made an enemy today, and I'm scared for him. She told him about the fight and about what she saw afterwards that scared her so much. I see. And Naruto isn't worried about this? Hinata shook her head. No, but he didn't see the look on Sasuke's face when he lost or how angry Sasuke got during the match. Naruto was having too much fun to care. But I think Sasuke is going to try to hurt Naruto or get back at him somehow, and if he won't be worried for himself, then I'm going to have to be worried for him. Hiyashi was surprised at what his daughter was saying. She sounded so mature as she said it, yet she was still a little girl looking for her daddy to fix something for her. He saw the glimmer of something in her eyes, something that wasn't there before, a maturity that was beginning to show through. In that maturity, he saw the understanding of just what could happen to Naruto if Sasuke tried to hurt him. He couldn't let that fear come to life, not while it was still preventable. Alright Hina-chan, I'll look into this for you and find some way to keep Naruto safe. Now you need to go to bed so that you can stay awake in school tomorrow. Okay daddy, just promise me that you'll keep my Naru-kun safe for me, Hinata said sleepily as Hiyashi picked her up and carried her back to her bed. She was asleep before he even got out of the study. I promise Haim, he whispered as he tucked her in. As he turned to leave he paused in the doorway. He had just realized what Hinata's worry about Naruto really meant. She had a crush on Naruto, she just didn't realize it yet, but soon she would be blushing and acting shy around Naruto. He would have to prevent that, it would only hinder her in the years to come. Perhaps he could have Hinali talk to her once it started, she would know what to say. After all, Hinali had been the same way. Hinata was definitely her mother's daughter. He smiled as he went to tell Hinali about their daughter's new crush. 2 months had gone by since Hinata came to him with her concerns, and Hiyashi had done something about it. The next day he went to Hiyashi's house after breakfast and talked to Naruto. He told him not to antagonize Sasuke and not to draw too much attention to himself. When Naruto started to protest about not doing his best, Hiyashi told him that at least for him, it would be safer to be in the middle of the class, causing people to think that he was an unremarkable ninja, at least for now. When Naruto asked why Hiyashi couldn't tell him, he just told him that it had to do with who his parents were and the reasons why he was being raised by the Hyugas. He promised to tell Naruto when the time was right, but not before then. Naruto had taken his words to heart. He didn't excel in anything except for sparring, which couldn't be helped since he had already demonstrated his skills. But what Hiashi hadn't expected was Naruto's methods of practicing his skills, since he couldn't excel without drawing attention to himself. Naruto had become a prankster, using each prank as a way to informally practice the skills he was concealing. After the first report of this reached his ears, Hiashi had barely contained his laughter. Once he got it under control, he called Iruka to have a meeting with him. Iruka walked into Hiashi's office perplexed. Normally it was the teacher who had to call these meetings. "You wanted to see me, Hiashi-sama." Hiashi did his best to maintain his composure. "Yes, I wanted to speak to you about Naruto's recent behavior. I trust that you are aware of his special circumstances." "Yes, Hiashi-sama, I was informed of his prisoner as soon as it became apparent that he was in my class. His prisoner is the reason that I told Naruto to hide his skills. The problem is that apparently he got bored with hiding his skills, so he started using them to become a prankster." Iruka was confused. "Wait a minute, you're telling me that Naruto is even more skilled than he is letting on?" "Of course, why do you think it took you 2 months to figure out who the prankster was?" "Naruto got bored, so he made it harder for himself. And what exactly am I supposed to do with this information? I can't let him get away with these pranks now that I know it's him who is responsible." Hiashi smiled, startling Iruka, who thought that Hyugas were incapable of such an action. "On the contrary, Iruka. I expect you to punish him severely each and every time that you catch him. Of course, that means that you have to be able to prove conclusively that it was him who did it. You can't just assume that every little thing that goes wrong is his fault. That just wouldn't be fair." In Naruto's mind, this is a challenge, a way to exercise his skills without drawing undue attention to just how good he is, but now it is also a battle of wits between him and you. Try to enjoy it. And don't worry, after his birthday the pranks will be slowing somewhat. I'm sure that his birthday present will be keeping him quite busy. Hiashi walked into the Hokage's office and bowed. "Hokage-sama. I would like to have Naruto trained by a weapons master as soon as possible. I would be willing to finance it myself, but seeing as he is training to be a ninja, I felt that you should have some say in the matter." The Hokage looked at him in surprise. "Yet again you exceed my expectations, Hiashi. I never thought that you would want him trained with a weapon. I was under the impression that you thought that weapons were useless. I still believe in Hokage-sama, at least where I am concerned, but where my daughter is concerned I will take no chances." And she is worried for Naruto's safety due to a boy named Sasuke Uchiha apparently taking a strong dislike to him. My reasoning is, if she is this worried now when the offending boy is unable to do something about his animosity, then how much worse will it be when the boy actually has the power to do something to Naruto? It seems a wiser course of action to train him now to defend himself and settle Hinata's fears, rather than wait for an attack to come and let him possibly die before taking action. Of course, I know that this gives him healing powers, and you know that too, but Hinata doesn't, and it is distracting her. Hiashi, is this entire decision based on concern for your daughter, or have you actually come to care for the boy? Hiashi looked down at the floor. "Are the privacy seals activated?" "Of course. Why would I allow you to discuss Naruto's future without them?" the Hokage said in mock offense. After he heard that, Hiashi looked the Hokage straight in the eye. "Yes, Iritobi, I have come to care for the boy a great deal through my time with him. I have found him to be surprising and even engaging at times, with a wisdom and an intellect far beyond his years. He has actually created a that allows him to have almost Byakugan-like visual acuity. He is truly Minato's son, and the exact kind of boy that I would like my daughters to marry. He has great power, yet he is completely humble about it and only seeks to learn. In fact, I have been considering opening up his clan's library to him, just to see what he would do with it. He has already told me about the scroll he found there last time." The Hokage looked shocked. "He found it, and when he saw exactly how advanced it was, he put it back. If that doesn't show maturity, then I don't know what does. Most boys his age would have taken it and killed themselves or someone else trying to get it right." The Hokage looked impressed. "Very well, Hiashi, do as you wish. But there is a certain weapons master that I want you to go to for his training. His name is Hyuga Sakise. He runs a weapons shop called Hyuga no Puki." Hiashi almost laughed at the hilarity of it all. A weapons master whose name meant peace creator. Ironically, Trilua's a cruel mistress indeed. Why this one weapons master? Because he is the only one that I can trust not to hurt Naruto and claim that it was a training accident. He was one of the few who were not up in arms about my decision not to kill Naruto after the fox was sealed within him. "Very well, Hokage-sama, I will do as you wish and go meet with him as soon as I leave here." "Good, see that you do, Hiashi." Oh, the weapons shop was rather close to the Hyuga compound. Hiashi guessed that it was so that Hyuga could help out if Naruto was attacked when he was younger, but he wasn't absolutely sure. He didn't know if the man's loyalty was as strong as the Hokage believed. He would be cautious until he was given a good reason to trust the man. After he walked in, an ordinary-looking man came out of the back room, limping slightly. "How can I help you, sir?" the weapons master asked. Hiashi looked him over as if to determine his worth. The man was tall with an average build. He looked rather young to be a weapons master, but Hiyashi could see that he had experience. His bald head glistened in the dim light of the shop, and his clothing looked slightly foreign to Hiyashi. At the moment he wasn't sure whether this man would be a good teacher for Naruto. I am here to see about procuring weapons instruction for my nephew. The Hokage recommended that I come here. Tell me about the boy, said the weapons master. Why? Hiyashi asked. The weapons master looked him straight in the eye. How else will I be able to choose the correct weapon to teach him? Granted, it is his choice in the end, but the weapons master is the one who is supposed to present him with the weapon most suitable to his personality and style. Alright, Hiyashi said. And he began to tell him about Naruto. 5 minutes after he had started, the weapons master held up his hand to silence him. I can tell that this boy is a little out of the order. Hiyashi looked at the man with a newfound respect. He hadn't expected the man to realize the secrecy surrounding Naruto so quickly. Of course the man knew about the seal within Naruto, what adult villager didn't? But this man had sensed that there was an even larger secret about his past, one that was too dangerous to speak of in an open shop like this. That is a very good idea, Sakusei-san. But what about the shop? Hiyashi asked. I don't get much business this time of day anyways, besides I can just call it my lunch break. The man said with a smile. Very well then, let us continue this conversation in private, he said. Hearing his acknowledgement, the weapons master limped into the back room and Hiyashi followed. When they had sat down in an empty room and the tea was ready, Hyuga sealed the door to the room with a privacy seal and turned to Hiyashi. Now, he said, tell me the secret history of Naruto Uzumaki, Lord Hiyashi. Hiyashi wasn't really surprised that the man already knew both his and Naruto's names, despite having never been informed of either. Any good weapons master should have been able to glean enough information from simple conversation and combine it with knowledge already available to him in order to come up with enough insight to tell something about the people he was facing. The fact that this man had done it so quickly only proved that he was, most likely, not only good at his job, he was great at it. Hiyashi's respect for him rose slightly. His intuition was impressive despite the fact that Hiyashi was well known in the village and it was common knowledge that Naruto lived with his clan. Very well, he said. And he told Hyuga Sakusei about Naruto's exploits that had been kept from the general public. The incident with the nin seemed to be of great interest to him, as was Naruto's creation of the with very little assistance. You mean to tell me that this boy took down a cloud village without using the Kyuubi's power? Hyuga asked incredulously. Yes, although I am pretty sure that the tree we found had something to do with it. There was a rather large dent in the trunk after the incident. The truly amazing thing about the whole thing is that instead of running away, Naruto began to pursue the man after he got free. Hiyashi said with a hint of pride. And he seriously created that thing on his own? Hyuga asked, amazed at the ingenuity that Naruto showed in creating the technique. Yes, the only thing I did was give him access to his clan's archives that I have hidden away within my clan's library. And then help him with some logistical details, such as where to get his training supplies and turning a blind eye to his late night practice sessions. Hiyashi said. Alright, I think I can draw some conclusions now. Please let me know if I am correct. Hyuga said. Hiyashi nodded and waited for him to continue. From what you have said, I can conclude 3 things for certain. The first one being that Naruto is a rather unpredictable child who shows great ingenuity in his efforts. Second, I can infer that he is very attached to your daughter Hinata and holds her in high regard. And third, I believe that Naruto is fiercely loyal to his friends and family and would do anything for them, and even more so where Hinata is concerned. His life basically revolves around her, doesn't it? Yes, it does seem that way sometimes, and the same thing can be said for Hinata. Her life seems to revolve around him as well. In fact, I am only doing this because she asked me to. Well, not really, it's more like she asked me to keep him safe for her because she couldn't do it herself yet. He told him about the conversation that he and Hinata had the night after their first day at the academy and her concerns regarding Naruto's safety. Then maybe it is not wise to only train Naruto to defend himself, perhaps I should train her as well. After all, she is concerned enough about him to request that you do something like this. If he ever really is in danger, she may try to defend him, with or without the skills necessary to succeed. Hiyashi looked thoughtful. I hadn't thought of that. I simply assumed that she would always use the gentle fist, just as I have done, quite successfully I might add. I know that she isn't a prodigy like her cousin Niji, but I had hoped that she would improve to a point that such a thing would be possible. Hiyashi said sadly. I know of a weapon that can utilize her skills and even improve them if she works hard enough. It is a rather unusual weapon. One that has not been seen in this region for years. In fact, I doubt that anyone has ever actually seen it in use, other than me, that is. The weapons master said proudly. What is this weapon? And why have I never heard of it? Hiyashi asked curiously. The weapons master got up and went over to a shelf that was set into the wall. He picked up a case that was only a foot long and returned to where he had been sitting before. They are called deer horn knives. The weapons master said as he opened the case to reveal the special weapons. Don't let the name fool you, these are fearsome weapons to use. They are capable of beating any bladed weapon in use today. The greatest thing about these knives is that they will be underestimated every time, giving your daughter a great advantage in combat. The Ashi only nodded as he examined the weapons. They were formed out of two crescent-shaped steel blades facing into each other. This gave the wielder an extremely large cutting surface to work with, while keeping the actual weapon quite small. One of the crescents had a point that was slightly longer than the other three. Hiashi guessed that this was the main blade. The inner curve of the longer crescent was wrapped in a leather grip, making the other crescent's blades into a handguard as well as a blade. Hiashi could see how this weapon would be underestimated at first. They certainly didn't seem very formidable on their own, but they appeared to be designed to be used in pairs. This was confirmed when Hyuga picked up the blades and demonstrated their use on a sparring dummy. The master whirled and struck the dummy multiple times in the space of a few seconds. All traces of the limp were gone from his step as he proceeded to completely destroy the dummy in less than a minute. Hiashi wondered whether the whole limp was just a ruse to get his opponents to underestimate him. It certainly worked. See what I mean? Hyuga asked after he had finished his demonstration. Hiashi certainly did. Yes, I do, and I will allow Hinata to be instructed in the use of these weapons. She'll be the first Hyuga in 3 generations to learn the use of a weapon that is not mandatory for all ninja to know. Such a skill will only serve to make her a stronger ninja, and thus more likely to survive her career. But what of Naruto? He is the real reason I came here today. What weapon will you teach him to wield? Hiashi asked. Hyuga smiled. I have a special weapon for him. It is another rarity around here, but it is less likely to be underestimated, both due to its name and its fearsome appearance. The man put away the deer horn knives and got out another case. It was over 3 feet long and about 10 inches wide. This is a tiger hook sword. It is another tandem weapon and very similar in its uses to the deer horn knives. He said as he opened the case. Hiashi thought that he would have to take his word for it because what he saw in the case was nothing like the weapons that he had just been shown. Lying in the case next to an oddly shaped scabbard was the weirdest looking sword that Hiashi had ever seen. The handle was, again wrapped in leather, and it had a crescent-shaped handguard that ran the length of the handle. The odd thing about it was that the crescent's points face outwards from the blade and was only connected to the sword itself by 2 pieces of metal situated on either end of the handle. It was obvious that the handguard was not for decoration. Hiashi could see that it was actually a blade unto itself, though why that was, he couldn't even begin to fathom. At the base of the handle was another blade that resembled a dagger in length and appearance, and tied to that was a cloth that seemed to have no use at all, at least as far as Hiashi could see. But the main blade was the oddest one of all. It had no point to speak of, instead the tip of the blade was curved in towards the handle, forming the hook that obviously gave the weapon its name. As Hyuga picked up the sword to demonstrate its use, Hiashi saw that the case did not hold just one sword. There were actually 2 of them there. Obviously they were meant for tandem use just like the deer horn knives. Once he picked them up, Hyuga did not immediately attack the practice dummy as he did before. Instead he went through a series of choreographed movements, picking up speed with each movement until his movements were a complete blur. Then he did something that Hiashi didn't expect. He slowed down his movements and then hooked the 2 swords together with their blades and let go of one of the handles. Hiashi half expected the sword to go flying into the wall or something similar, but instead the sword merely extended until it was only an extension of its brother as Hyuga swung it around. Now the use of the cloth was apparent to him. It seemed to be used to stabilize the path of the blade, creating just enough drag to stop the free blade from getting ahead of its twin and coming unhooked. The whole thing was amazing. Instead of 2 3-foot-long blades, there was now only one, and it was 6 feet long. Any enemy within that 6 foot zone was now dead. Now Hiashi could see that the crescent-shaped handguard blade and the dagger on the end of the hilt were really meant to be used as weapons, just like the longer blade was. This truly was a formidable weapon. Naruto would love it. Hyuga's demonstration ended in him catching the handle of the free-swinging sword in his free hand without any difficulty at all. He came back over to where Hiashi was, sitting near the door. What do you think? The weapons master asked, only slightly out of breath. I think that Naruto and Hinata are going to love these swords, but how do we get them to choose them over the more conventional varieties that are out there? Hiashi asked. That's simple. On Naruto's birthday you bring both him and Hinata here to my shop. I know that most stores are closed due to the anniversary of the attack, but I think we'll make an exception for him. I am confident that they will be drawn to these weapons. Their personalities fit the styles perfectly. Though I am pretty sure that Naruto will want to learn both weapons. Hyuga said. How can you be so sure? Hiashi asked. Like you said, his world revolves around your daughter, and she will be learning the deer horn knives. He will want to help her, and would only end up learning it anyways. Plus from what you told me I am pretty sure that Naruto will become a combat specialist when he grows older, and not every fight takes place at the end of a sword. He will need a reliable close combat weapon, for when the tiger hooks will not be feasible to use without harm to himself or his teammates. Hyuga explained patiently. You have a good point. Very well, I will have Naruto learn both forms. Thank you for seeing me and giving me a demonstration before I brought the children here. I will see you in 2 days on Naruto's birthday. We will come by around noon to ensure that you have time to get everything ready. Hiyashi said as he got up to leave. Thank you for allowing me to teach your children, Lord Hiyashi. Hyuga said as Hiyashi left. Naruto is going to love this, Hiyashi thought as he made the short trip home. Hyuga Uchiha was not a happy man at the moment. All of his long-standing plans surrounding the demon boy seemed to be falling apart before his very eyes. First, his youngest son was defeated in a spar by the stupid brat on their very first day in the academy, and then the demon had the audacity to befriend the heirs of the Nara and Akimichi clans. Hyuga had been counting on the support of those clans when the time came to rid the village of the demon boy's menace. Now they stood ready to defend the boy merely for the sake of his friendship with their respective heirs, and where the Nara and Akimichi clans went, the Yamanaka were sure to follow. That legendary partnership, which had stood for 2 generations already and was now in line for its 3rd incarnation, was going to ruin several years' worth of planning on Fugaku's part. Granted, the clan's stance on the demon boy's continued existence had always been neutral, but Fugaku had assumed that their lack of a position on the matter had more to do with fear of the Hyuga clan than with an actual opinion. He had been certain that once the boy was dealt with they would come out on his side, only now he wasn't so sure. They hadn't come out and said it yet, but Fugaku could see the tide of opinion regarding the demon brat turning in the boy's favor within those 3 clans. Without their support it would be nearly impossible to escape any legal or financial ramifications that could possibly result from the boy's elimination. He needed more information before he could decide on his next course of action. And 3 was only one ninja was skilled enough to fool the Hyugas and their accursed Byakugan, his son Itachi. True, he had been getting more and more distant as of late, but he was still loyal to the Uchiha clan and would not be able to refuse a direct order from its leader. He walked to the door of his office and called for a servant to summon Itachi immediately. They would have to move fast if they were to have any chance of getting rid of the demon brat before it was too late. Naruto was extremely excited. Today was his birthday and they were heading somewhere special. He had no idea where they were going or why they had ventured outside of the Hyuga compound on today of all days. They had never before left the compound on his birthday, so he knew that there must be a reason for their adventure today. He ran into the store his uncle had spoken of without knowing exactly what he would find there. He then froze in shock. Never in a million years would he have expected this. He knew that the Hyuga clan had sworn off of weapons 3 generations ago, when the gentle fist style had been perfected. So why were they in a weapons shop now? He turned to his uncle to ask him that question, but was suddenly speechless when he saw the look on Hiyashi's face. He was smiling. Yes, he was smiling. Such an expression looked foreign on the face of a man who had carefully cultivated his reputation of arrogance and power in the eyes of the general populace of the village. Naruto had only seen Hiyashi smile a few times and never outside of the compound where they lived. Even within the compound the man kept his face a careful mask of indifference. Only those who knew him best, such as his wife or his brother and their children, had ever seen him smile, and always it was inside his office with the privacy seals activated where no snooping elder would be able to see it and call him weak. Naruto got over his shock when Hiyashi spoke to him. Naruto, I have decided that it is time for you to learn to defend yourself with more than just your hands. There is only so much that you can do with the gentle fist without the Byakugan, and your Byakugan abilities can only go so far in making up for that fact before they too fall short of the mark. Since I do not know of any normal taijutsu teachers that I can fully trust with your training, besides normal taijutsu just won't cut it in the ninja world, you will need something more if you wish to survive your ninja career. That being the case, I will allow you to learn to fight with any weapon that you see here. I don't care how much it will cost, I only care that you learn to fight to the best of your ability. Naruto was amazed at this turn of events. He had wanted to learn how to fight with a weapon ever since he had gone with his Ashi to get for his training and seen all the cool weapons in the store, but he had thought that he would have to wait until he was a ninja to even be able to consider such an idea. There was also the fact that the store that the two had gone to that day didn't like him for some reason. His Ashi had gotten into a fight with a man at the counter. He wasn't sure, but he suspected that the fight had something to do with his presence in the store. In the end, his Ashi had needed to threaten the man in order to get him to serve them. No member of the Hyuga clan had ever gone to that weapons shop again. Naruto was brought back to the present when he realized that the others who were in the store with him were looking at him expectantly, as if waiting for a reaction from him. He gave them one that they wouldn't soon forget. "This is the best birthday present ever," he shouted, startling his companions. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Naruto then realized that he was making a scene, which was probably not what his uncle wanted him to do, so he calmed himself down and resumed his carefully cultivated self-control that he had lost in his excitement. He bowed to Hiashi and said in a calm voice, "Thank you for this great honor, Hiashi-sama. I hope to make you proud and bring honor to the Hyuga clan with this endeavor that you are allowing me to embark on." Hinata giggled at his loss of control. She had always found these situations funny for some reason, maybe because it reminded her that Tari was another person who lived in the Hyuga compound who wasn't a perfect Hyuga, that meant she wasn't alone. The issue was also greatly amused by Naruto's antics and his sudden reversion into the perfect Hyuga tone. Over the years they had been trying to make him slightly calmer and less reactionary in his daily life, they had mostly succeeded. Only when Naruto was extremely excited did his old hyperactivity come back for a few seconds. He wasn't boring, not by a long shot, but they had succeeded in causing Naruto to think about his actions before proceeding with them. Hiashi bowed as well and said, "You are welcome to Naruto, now go choose your weapon." Naruto ran in like a kid in a candy store, or rather an academy student choosing his first real weapon. He quickly found the largest sword in the store, but he could tell that it wasn't for him. Something about it just gave him an ominous feeling, like one day it would try to kill him or something. The tag on its stand read, Zanbato, horse-laying sword, a sword type most famous for its use by one of the 7 swordsmen of the mist, currently wielded by Zabuza the demon of the hidden mist. Naruto moved on to another sword type. He didn't think he would be strong enough to use that sword anyways. Let's see, he thought, I need a weapon that is strong and deadly, but still agile enough for use with my Byakuzen. It needs to have killing power without sacrificing defensive capabilities. And it needs to have a little something to give me an edge in my fights. Something in the back of the shop caught his eye. He slowly walked towards it, as if he was in a trance. Hinata followed him, curious as to what could hold her best friend's attention for so long. He passed up every weapon in the shop. Every time they came to a weapons case she was sure that he would stop. They passed up katanas and naginatas and wakizashis and even a specialized longbow with blades on each tip. When they finally stopped at the case holding the weapons chosen by Hiashi earlier that week, though Hinata didn't know about that yet, she was surprised at what she saw. In the case were 2 of the weirdest swords that she had ever seen. One had so many curves that she didn't even think it was a weapon, the tiger hook swords, and the other one looked like something out of a sci-fi movie. The deer horn knives, they really do look like something out of Star Trek. She ended up staring at the deer horn knives, as the label called them, in awe. She had no idea how they were used, but she could tell that they were extremely deadly. She found herself wanting to try them out and maybe try to convince her father to let her use them. Those knives looked like they were perfect for a gentle fist user such as herself. While Hinata was entranced by the deer horn knives, Naruto was staring at the tiger hook swords, just as much in awe of them as Hinata was of the knives in front of her. He kept switching his gaze between the 2 weapons, but mostly he was staring at the swords. If he could learn to use such a weapon, he would become a great ninja, and best of all, he could protect his Hinaheim from all the bad men this world had to offer. Unnoticed by the 2 children, a man walked up behind them. "I see you've made your choice," he said, startling them. They hadn't even heard him approaching them. Naruto recovered first. "Yes, I have, mister." "Oh, I'm sorry kids, I didn't introduce myself. My name is Hyuga Sakise. I am a weapons master and the owner of this shop. I am also the man whom the Hokage and your uncles have personally entrusted your weapons training to. You should feel honored that the Hokage has taken such an interest in your training. I don't train just anybody, you know. A student has to show skill, courage, perseverance, compassion and humility if they wish for me to even consider training them. You are lucky that the Hokage and your uncles have decided that you are worthy of my considerable talents, otherwise you wouldn't even be here. Now then, I see that you have chosen the tiger hook swords. Unfortunately, the fact that you are training to be a ninja excludes you from using this weapon." "What? I thought Uncle Hiashi said that I could choose any weapon in the shop." Naruto interrupted. Hyuga sighed, "If you settle down and listen, then you'll hear the rest of what I was going to say." Naruto immediately stopped his tantrum and listened. "Thank you, as I was saying, the fact that you are training to be a ninja excludes you from using this weapon. And there is a very good reason for this. As a ninja you will be fighting in all types of situations and all types of environments, not all of them conducive to this type of weapon. Always, for example, are too small and enclosed for you to fight correctly with the tiger hook swords, and sometimes a kunai or taijutsu just won't have the stopping power needed. In order to ensure that you have every advantage in your fights, I don't allow my students to learn the tiger hook swords if they wish to also become ninjas. Of course, if you also learn how to fight with a smaller weapon such as the deer horn knives that your partner is admiring, then I would let you learn the tiger hook swords as well." Thankfully this kid is still gullible. Now we won't need to make any excuses as to why we are having him train in both weapons. Hyuga thought as he was explaining all of this to Naruto. The Ashi, Hisashi and Hinali came up to them just then and saw that the children had made their choices, though Hinata had no idea that she was, in fact, choosing her own weapon, as well as helping Naruto find his. The placement of weapons in the shop was not by accident. The weapons in the shop had been arranged so that Naruto would have to pass up nearly every weapon in the ninja's arsenal before he could consider the ones that had been chosen for him. The Ashi cleared his throat so that they would listen to him. Naruto, if you have chosen your weapon, then let us go to the counter and arrange for lessons and purchase your training weapons. As the men headed towards the counter to make the arrangements, Hinali grabbed Hinata's arm and held her back. I noticed you staring at those knives, Hinata. Would you like to learn how to wield them as Naruto will? Hinata stared at her, hardly daring to believe what she was hearing. Yes mother, I would like that. But father would never allow me to do that. No, Hyuga has learned how to wield anything other than the basic ninja tools in 3 generations. Well, your father has decided that you should be given this chance if you so desire it. You will be taught alongside Naruto. After all, it was you who gave your father the idea to let Naruto learn a weapon anyways. Your little talk with him after your first day at the academy did more than you thought it would. Your new weapons teacher convinced him that it would be better to have you learn this skill with Naruto. Think of this as a test case, a way to see if the Hyuga clan really is better off not using weapons. Hinali explained. Thank you mother, I won't let you down. Hinata said before she ran up to the counter to inform Naruto of the news. Hyuga was right about one thing at least. Naruto was even more enthusiastic about his upcoming weapons training after he heard that Hinata was joining him.